Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from TOLLEY's, from LEXISNEXIS. It's part of their taxation series of books, and this particular one is extremely useful. We've reviewed it before. The title is Clarke's Offshore Tax Planning for the year 2014 to 15. This is the book here. It's a heavy book and it's actually a hardback. You can see the front and then the spine, then the back. And it runs to 1200 pages. Show you the book first of all. We'll talk about who's written it. That's the index at the back. Then you can see there's a huge amount of information in the book. Let's start at the front. You've got the main front area there. This is actually the 21st edition of the book, so they're celebrating a little bit of an anniversary. There's the preface from Giles Clarke. Then the author biographies explaining who the people are who've actually written this book. I'll mention them in a minute. Then there's an introduction, which is well worth reading as well, to explain what has happened, how the book is structured. Then you've got the contents section there, part A, and then running through all the way through to the end, and I'll just show you the rest of those there. You can see those there, and then finally at the end that little bit there. And then you've got statutes and various other matters, quite a lot of case law of course. Then you get into section 1 itself, part A, section 1, and then you can see from there you've got paragraph numbering on the sides, which is very helpful. There isn't much in the way of, in fact no footnotes as such at all, but you do have the ability to find things quite easily with the paragraph numbering. And then, as I say, you get right to the back. It's a heavy book, it's got a great deal in it, and the structure of the book, which I'll mention a little bit about, it is split into parts. It starts off with part A, which is the planning, the specific planning area. Part B is domestic legal framework. Part C, UK anti-avoidance legislation. Then part D, international agreements. That's the book anyway. It's been written, as I say, by a number of people. Giles Clarke, hence Clarke on offshore tax planning, Dominic, Lawrance and Alice Wilne. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I have written a review again this year to cover this financial year, and we've given it the title Another Excellent Edition of Clarke on Offshore Tax Planning for 2014 to 15. Now, this is an area which does actually cause a few problems with one or two people, because they look at the word tax, offshore tax planning, and think immediately about people perhaps avoiding tax and all the difficulties that conjures up in the press and everywhere else. So this is what we say to try and get the balance right about why this book is so important. Giles Clarke has maintained his excellent statement on offshore tax planning for the current financial year 2014 to 15 as we enter a new era in 2015 with a general election and its aftermath, and possible effects on this particular area of taxation policy. Now, I've recorded this immediately after the annual statement in December 2014, so I'm aware that there have been some changes that are being presented by the current government as we get to the general election next May. Anyway, we go on. We say we've reviewed this title in the past and endorse our previous analysis that the work concentrates on how offshore trusts, companies and other entities can be used as a legitimate shelter from UK taxation, and the words legitimate shelter I think are very important. We use these words carefully as offshore tax planning does get a bad press because it's an area which is both difficult and controversial to many people, including the government and HMRC. So do read the main introduction, which sets the scene nicely for what Clarke sets out to achieve when he writes that, quote, "This book is about tax planning. It does not and never has covered artificial tax avoidance schemes." And I think that's an important point to make. He and his co-authors, Dominic, Lawrance and Alice Wilne, go on to say that the planning strategies described in the book presuppose that all tax liabilities are properly returned and that full disclosure of all relevant facts are disclosed to HMRC, quote, so that the efficacy or otherwise of what is set up can be determined in a proper and open manner. They conclude saying that, quote, such openness and disclosure is essential both to achieve finality and because anything less risks being evasion and may therefore be criminal. We felt that this is a very important point to reiterate. And what the authors and LEXISNEXIS say here is that because of the continued publicity and current government drive to deal fairly with the tax issues, the actual balance has been achieved by the authors because of the obviously heavy media interest in this area and the commentaries which are regularly appearing in the UK press. Offshore tax planning is rightly described as diffusing concept because it engages many overlapping areas. The book's well over 1,200 pages. It's heavy. It's a hardback. It's got the 5 parts, A, B, C and D. Actually 4 parts, not 5. Covering planning the domestic legal framework, UK anti-avoidance legislation and international agreements. And for many readers, Part A will be of great significance, setting out the planning opportunities and techniques which are available to individuals who are both resident and domiciled in the UK. And the content of the 21st edition, which has certainly come of age with its blend of change over the last year, include new material on partnerships and useful guidance on the identification of non-UK investments as we continue to become more global. There is also an excellent discussion on changes to the remittance basis in relation to employment arrangements and the use of offshore assets as collateral for loans used in the United Kingdom. If anything, this year's edition fulfills everything which the offshore tax planner needs to know in the current hot atmosphere of concern over who actually does pay tax in this country and what is legitimate as a method of prudent fiscal planning. Thanks to you for continuing to present your suggestions so well, because the way that it's produced is really very helpful to us. The law is stated as at the 31st of August 2014, although 1 or 2 developments after that date have been included. Let me just show you the book again very quickly. It's a hardback. It is heavy. It's actually written in conjunction with Charles Russell's Speechless. You can see the logo at the back there. And again, you can see the spine, which sets it out quite nicely. And just to show you, just opening it up, the old inheritance tax treaties, for instance, that's a start off there. And you've got relevant foreign income. That's an important area too. I think the value of this is that we are very much in a global community today. So it's important that we know where we're going. And we have actually got some sort of plan about what we're going to do with our assets. Anyway, thank you to Giles and all his colleagues for an excellent book, and also to LEXISNEXIS and TOLLEY's for continuing to give us such a good service with their tax publications. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.